Hey guys, just something quick. I finally reached 1K views on one of my videos. The second one that I've ever posted, it was about smoking. Anyways, yeah, I reached 1,000 views and I'm pretty excited. I never really expected to go anywhere specific with this channel, but there is a video that I've always kind of wanted to do, but have been a little bit nervous about making, but I just decided I'm going to do it, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to put myself out there, so hopefully it will inspire other people to continue the conversation, or even just to help others feel like they're not alone. So basically this is my story about mental illness and my struggles and who I am today and why I am the way I am, and also what kind of has made me become that. So you may or may not know this about me, but I have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, otherwise known as BPD, or emotionally unstable disorder. The whole borderline personality disorder term doesn't really make sense. It was made in the 80s as it first became diagnosable in the 80s, and it was kind of in response to it's borderline something else. It's borderline bipolar, it's borderline this, so it's not the same, it's not like it's full psychosis, so that's why they have that kind of term associated with it. It is pretty misleading, but they haven't found a term that fits it quite yet, so it's still called borderline personality disorder. Now, there's also a lot of comorbidities associated with borderline personality disorder. So it's kind of like a tree, and then all of these other aspects, disorders, kind of stem from it. So like depression, anxiety, there could be substance abuse disorders, somatoform disorders, eating disorders, which I'll get into in a sec. I guess I'll just start from the beginning. When I was very, very little, I was cute. I was talking at a very, very young age. I was always kind of bright and exciting and out there and crazy and fun. But I also had a little bit of troublesome behaviors. So teachers were always like, wow, she's so smart, but she just a lot to deal with. There's these behavioral problems, and they never really were fixed. The teachers kind of just passed me off as one of those kids, that is not worth anyone's time, I guess, apparently. Nowadays, we know that, we're supposed to intervene when a child has these kind of behaviors, because there's obviously something else going on, and that's why they're acting out. But yeah, so that's kind of where I started. My mom had suffered from mental illness when I was really young. So when I was 8 years old, my father, they found a brain tumor in his, I think it was parietal lobe. Parietal lobe, right next to his right ear. So he had to have some operations. They cut too far deep, so now he has trouble with balance and hearing, and he had to quit going to work, so now he's at home full time. And back then it was a huge deal. My father was really sick, my mom didn't know what to do. She had stayed home before, and then she had to start going back to work, and she had her own problems. My father had obviously a brain tumor, which is now, it's just kind of dormant. He's just chronically ill now. It's not getting worse, but it's not getting any better either. My brother also had learning disabilities growing up, and then I had my asthma, and then I was also a behavioral child. So overall, it's kind of, there's a lot. We all have our, I guess, cross to bear. And so as I got older, these problems became a little bit more prevalent, and I guess I wasn't receiving the right attention that I needed. The teachers, they didn't really care. No one really did anything, so I guess obviously it got worse. And then as I got into middle school, I started getting really bullied, really badly, and I don't think that caused any of my mental illnesses, but it definitely didn't make it better. It definitely kind of probably brought them out a little bit earlier, and just my abilities to cope. I had learned at a young age some unhealthy ways of dealing with what I was feeling. So I was bullied, and that only got worse up into high school. I was emo, I guess, whatever. So people knew that I was emotional, and I had problems regulating my emotions, and they kind of took that and were like, oh, I guess you cut yourself. Like people grab my wrist and be like, oh, like you're not cutting yourself right. You're supposed to go vertically, like down the road for results, not horizontally. And you're just doing it for attention. That back in the day, I didn't even cut myself. I have dealt with self-harm since then, but yeah, back then it was just kids being cruel and mean. So when I was 14, my parents brought me to a child psychiatrist, just to kind of see like what's going on. Obviously they knew that there was something, but they weren't sure. They thought maybe they can get me some therapy or maybe some medication, just to kind of see what's going on. So basically the child psychiatrist said, she just kind of, if she does things wrong, like just call the cops, just do whatever you do, like there's no helping her. So for a 14-year-old to hear that all of these things that are wrong with me and people obviously have been pointing out to me, there's nothing that I can do about it. So from that point on, I was kind of just like, well, there's no saving me. There's no helping me. There's nothing that I can do for myself. There's nothing other people can do for me. So I found things that I could use to make myself feel better that were unhealthy. I started drinking at a really young age. I started smoking weed. I started engaging in unhealthy relationships and people and all that kind of stuff. So from a young age, this was a problem. And it just got worse and worse, and they're a little bit afraid, psychiatrists and stuff, to diagnose children before the age of 18 because there could be the possibility that it's just puberty. And, a lot of children deal with it differently, like with the chemicals and the hormones. Unfortunately, it wasn't just puberty, and it was still prevalent up until now, and still I'm always going to have these illnesses, but it's just how I deal with them and what decisions I make that can either be healthy or unhealthy that will project my life forward. So I just kind of wanted to, I know I've been throwing the word borderline personality disorder around like a lot, so I just kind of wanted to give like a brief, I guess, synopsis of, for lack of a better word, of BPD. So this is on borderlinepersonalitydisorder.com. You can always do research. I mean, self-diagnosis is never good. If you're worried about anything or you feel like yourself that these symptoms match you, I urge you to go see a doctor as soon as possible, just to get yourself help. And even if it turns out that you're mentally okay, like there's no harm in having gone and checked. So the overview for this is BPD is a serious mental illness that causes unstable moods, behavior, and relationships. It usually begins during adolescence or early adulthood. So most people with BPD suffer from problems regulating their emotions and thoughts, impulsive and sometimes reckless behavior, and unstable relationships. There's also kind of like characteristics, and you need to meet 5 out of these 9 characteristics to be diagnosed. No, I'm not saying that so you can self-diagnose or anything like that. And also, you don't have to exhibit all of them, or you can, or you can't. And everyone is different, right? So I could experience some symptoms, and someone else with borderline personality disorder could have completely different symptoms, and that's okay too. So a fear of abandonment, unstable or changing relationships, unstable self-image, struggles with identity or sense of self, impulsive or self-damaging behaviors such as excessive spending, substance abuse, reckless driving, eating disorders, unsafe sex, all of that. Suicidal behavior or self-injury, varied or random mood swings, constant feelings of worthlessness or sadness, problems with anger including frequent loss of temper or physical fights, and stress-related paranoia or loss of contact with reality. Now, every time I read through these, it like kind of shocks me because I have experienced every single one of these at least some point in time. And usually multiple. I'd say like I experience at least one of these every single day. So just kind of to put it into perspective, a fear of abandonment means that any relationships that I have, friendships with my family, with my boyfriend, or anything like that, it is super easy for me to take a criticism or something that's going on or some kind of negative emotions and just take that and think like, okay, they think that I'm a bad person, they're going to leave me, and then that is when all of the behaviors to try and cope with that's when that happens, is when I feel like I'm being left, proverbially, whether in real or imagined. It's kind of just like anything that is negative and happening towards me, anything that someone does or says, is automatically taken as like a personal. So I think that it has a direct reflection on who I am as a person. And it could be something as easily as like, oh, Michelle, like you didn't do this. And I find it to be an attack. So that's kind of what fear of abandonment is. You're worried that the person's going to leave you and you're going to be alone. And being alone is something that a borderline patient is absolutely terrified of, because we're kind of, I guess, dependent is not really a good word to say, because it kind of, people could take that and run with it and stigmatize it. But I guess we are, in a way. We need to have other people, I guess, in our relationship to kind of make our sense of self seem more relevant. Now this is weird, and I'm sure a lot of you won't understand what I'm about to say, but a sense of self for me personally is really hard to describe. Sometimes I feel, like I'm this person or I'm this person, or I have these different personas. Like who I am right now, I'm fucking Mishi Mish or Mishi Mavros or whoever I am on online and on the internet, and who I am, and I kind of just say whatever's on my mind, and then in person I'm someone else, and then I'm a professional, and I'm a person that deals with kids, and that's a completely different person than from who I am now. And then I could be just a completely depressed person or this or that, but I don't really feel like I'm one cohesive person. Other times I feel like I'm not a person at all, if that makes sense. Sometimes I feel like I am the narrator in a story, and everything that I see is the story, but I don't feel like I myself am a character sometimes in life, I guess, the book of life. Along with that, that's kind of also why we need to have people with us to help solidify us, and it's hard when a person is not there to remember that they have a life outside of you, outside of the relationship. Just as when I'm away from that person, I feel as though I don't have a life outside of it either. So that's why we kind of, I guess, cling to people, and it becomes love or hate really fast. So there's actually a medical term called black and white splitting, which borderline personality disorder patients exhibit a lot. And that's kind of why I have this whole like obsession with black and white. It's not literally that I see black and white. It's that I associate entire feelings to even inanimate objects. Like I love yogurt, and then I hate mushrooms. I love the color turquoise, and I hate the color orange. I love this person, and I hate that person. It's so hard for me to see a person as good and bad. I either see them as all good, and they're amazing, and I love them, they're best people ever, and I can't see any faults, or they're just like a completely disgusting, nasty person, just awful to society, just useless, and there's nothing good about them. So it is really hard for me to see gray in a world of black and white. And so this kind of reflects other aspects of my life too. So myself, I either see myself as like I'm doing all good or I'm doing all bad. So, and I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of a little bit scatterbrained in it, but that's kind of, I guess, the best way that I can describe my sense of self. So other aspects of this are like unstable self-image, which is kind of the same thing, but I can go from disliking myself and hating myself, and then I love myself, and then back when I was bullied a lot, it was just like a self-hatred type of thing, and I wasn't able to see myself as a good person, and that's why we have like the suicidal gestures, and we can't see the life ahead of what situation is happening right now. There's something bad happening right now, and I can't see forward. I can't see the good that lies in the future. You know, it's definitely really scary not to know at any point in time that I could just snap. And that's another thing, is the mood changes. So I could be a completely good mood, I could be happy, I could be manic, I could be crazy. So I'm not just happy. When I'm happy, I'm really happy. I'm bouncing off the walls. I'm like, woo, yeah, party. I'm screaming, I'm dancing, I'm having fun, I'm laughing. And then 5 minutes later, something bad could happen, and I could be just in the worst mood ever. I could be angry. I'll just lash out on people. I'll go straight for the jugular, you know? And that's why my parents had a hard time raising me, and we had a hard relationship, is because anything that they told me became like immediately like an attack, and I got angry. And it's also hard to resolve conflicts when I'm in those kind of moods. And it's hard also for me to remember what I felt and what was going on in that situation. And all I can remember is, oh, I was mad. I was mad. I don't remember really why I was mad. And it's also hard for me to remember my actions. So say, for example, me and my boyfriend get in a fight, and he says something to me and I say something to him. We get in a fight, we get mad, and then all I remember afterward that is that I'm mad. And then I'll be like, well, maybe you did this, and you did this, and you did this. But I can't remember what it was that I did in that situation. So that sense of self is not, I can't put myself even back into my own shoes. I don't know about we, but I have this weird sense of empathy where I have intense empathy for some things. Like I will cry when I see like a dog that's injured, you know, and when I see people out there that are like struggling with like food and poverty and sexual abuse and all of that, is just really overwhelming, and I feel like an overwhelming sense of empathy. So I am able to place myself in shoes in that point, but then there are other times where I can't. So the whole like lack of, you know, even who I am, even like the traits that I find challenging, they change every day. So that's a little bit of why I'm kind of all over the place, and I don't have like that one cohesive sense of me. Varied or random mood swings I talked about. Constant feelings of worthlessness or sadness. So like I said, when I'm sad, I'm not just sad, I'm depressed, and I can't see anything other than me being sad and depressed. And that's why I think suicide is such a thing that we turn to naturally, is because it's like we think that it doesn't get better. It's just, I feel so worthless, I feel bad, I can't see the good parts of me. So that's why I have turned to self-harm. And this is a little bit personal, but I started self-harming, I don't remember when. And I've done it on my wrists, I've done it on my thighs. I've tried to take my own life on a few occasions. I've downed a bunch of pills, and now looking back on it, I'm not sure that I was actually trying to take my life, but in that moment I just didn't know what else to do. And so that's the whole kind of impulsive behaviors. It's, I need to do something right now to change this, and sometimes ending your own life is the only thing that you can think of that will help you out of the situation. Which, if for someone that's emotionally and mentally stable, it doesn't sound reasonable, but that's what I feel, I guess. I don't know. So the problems with anger, again, it's the same thing. I don't feel just angry. I feel extremely angry. Stress-related paranoia, it's true. So when I feel a little bit stressed, I automatically have anxiety. I'm more prone to panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and I can work myself up really, really, really quickly over a small situation. I tried to make it kind of like it's kind of like a band-aid that you put on your skin, and you take it off too early and there's still the exposed flesh. The band-aid is the proverbial, like, what action that I'm doing to relieve myself of what I'm feeling at the moment. I'm putting a band-aid on, and underneath is still that problem, and there's still like that raw feeling. And I could go months or even years without like a situation bothering me, but I can think about it and it's as if it's completely rehashed. I can think about something that happened 2 years ago. If I think about it long enough, it will be as if it happened yesterday. So it's almost like I'm, you know, like my skin is constantly, it's sensitive. There's no like outer layer of skin. It's just an inner layer. So every time someone like even like a touch is so much more. I feel everything so deeply, so truly, which is a gift and a curse. I feel everything so much more intensely than a lot of other people. So that's kind of, I guess, borderline personality disorder for me, and for what I've experienced thus far. The whole coping mechanisms, like I said, in high school, it went from being like substances and eating disorders, and when you dislike yourself, you'll find stuff to nitpick, and you know, like I stopped eating to try and get that image that I liked. And when I was in high school, like the only thing that saved me was I got discovered in a mall for modeling, and that made me realize, like, oh hey, like at least you're pretty, like you're obviously a shitty person, you have all these things wrong with you, and there's nothing that you can do to help yourself but modeling. So then I focus really on just like myself and my outer image, and you know, that's why people can find me a little bit vain. but that was my only like saving grace for myself. And now that I'm older and I have gotten help, I've gotten therapy. Dialectical behavioral therapy works great for borderline personality disorder. I also have an antidepressant, a very strong antidepressant, that also helps me. And just slowly, I guess, growing up, by the time you're in your 40s or 50s, borderline personality disorder is supposed to subside because you've grown up and you've learned all of these coping mechanisms that are healthier. And I'd say one of the best things that I've ever done for myself is have positive, secure, healthy relationships. I have them with my family now. I didn't in the past. I have a couple of friends and my boyfriend, and those people that I have now, just that care about your well-being, that makes all the difference. Just knowing that there are people out there that understand me and want to help me, and I'm not on my own. That is just the best thing that I can do, and I don't turn to those unhealthy, damaging behaviors as much as I used to. And even just listening to myself now and going through my story, I've realized how much I've changed even in 5 years, and I am really proud of myself, and I know that I do have a long way to go. But I wanted to share this with you guys, to let you know that you're not alone, and there are mental illnesses and they're not fun, and I just want you to know that you don't have to suffer alone. You can find those people, find one person that you absolutely love, and make sure that you go and you check yourself out. And if you find yourself being in that pit of depression, suicidalness, and you don't know what to do, or like you feel like you don't have anything to give to the world, you always do, and you may not see it right now. I still don't really know what I want to do, or where I'm going, or where my life is going to lead me. But just getting that positive outlook, which is a lot easier said than done, is, I guess, the first step towards recovery. And I don't think that I'm recovered fully, but I am definitely on the road to self-recovery. And yeah, so I don't know. That's, I guess, my story. So yeah, I hope it inspired you guys. And I don't know, even if it didn't, even if, you're listening to it and you're like, wow, Michelle, just blah, 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 blah. It's been cathartic for myself, and I just, yeah. Now I'm speechless. So with all that being said, I just want everyone to know that if they are feeling any of these things, or they have any questions, or they want to reach out to someone, or anything like that, you can message me. Feel free, ask me any questions. But thank you so much for watching, guys. If you actually watched the whole thing, like, that's awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys later.